Hey guys, it's Dekkster here, and we got a release date for Knights of the Frozen Throne. It's going to be August 10th, so be sure to call in sick, you know, for that Thursday and that Friday. Maybe, I don't know, the following week as well. But we have 10 cards to talk about here, including the Death Knight for the Priest. Pretty exciting stuff. I'm going to be talking about each card and then giving my score from 1 to 10 right after I talk about the card, because you guys didn't like the other format. Anyways, let's go ahead and let's jump into it. Desperate Stand is a Paladin spell. It's a rare, costs 2 manas, and the text is give a minion Death Rattle, return this to life with 1 health. This doesn't seem that great, but I could definitely see it being used in some archetypes. The main benefit this has over Redemption is that you get to use on your own turn. You get to choose what it's used on. So yeah, you can use it on Tyrion or Wicker Flame Burn Bristle, but you know, maybe you want to use it on a Argent Commander or something, and that way you can kill your own minion on purpose. So let's say you throw down Argent Commander, its Divine Shield gets removed by something else you use, and then you put this on it. It becomes a 4/2 with charge. You can run it into something. It'll die. It'll come back to life, and you get to charge it again. It also has synergies with some like N'Zoth, or you know, just the classic throwing it on Tyrion. It is weak to silence, de-evolve, that sort of thing, but it still is a strong spell. And back when you can trigger your own secrets on Paladin, Redemption was really good. So I definitely see this getting some use every now and then. I don't think it's going to be a staple, but it is a good card. I think it's a little bit underrated. I'm going to give this one, I'm going to give it an 8, because I see it being used in some decks. So Ultimate Infestation is an epic Druid card. It's 10 mana, and it deals 5 damage, draws 5 cards, gains 5 armor, and summons a 5/5 ghoul. This card is insane. It's amazing. I think it might even be maybe a little bit OP. Like if you guys played a Yogg Saron on, you know, 10 mana, and it did 5 damage to an enemy, it drew you 5 cards, it gave you 5 armor, would you be okay with that? I think you'd like that. You'd like that out of a Yogg. So I think this card is great. This card is amazing. This card is going to be played for sure, especially in, you know, the slower decks. It's a high mana cost, but with Druids being able to ramp up so fast, this is definitely going to be played in something like Ramp or Jade Druid. This is also going to be amazing for Arena. It's going to be so good, guys. This is actually also really good for Quest Druid. It might even make, you know, the Barnabas quest viable. Maybe people will actually start playing that. But you can also think, maybe you replace an Auctioneer for this. The point of an Auctioneer is to just cycle through your deck, get like 5 cards. If you got 5 cards off an Auctioneer, you'd be super happy. So this might be replacing an Auctioneer, because usually you play the Auctioneer on a later turn, so you can just start throwing out your spells and cycling them. But with this, you get 5 cards. You also get a 5/5 on the board. You also get to do 5 damage, and you get 5 armor. So this is, I could see this replacing Auctioneers, but I definitely do see this being used in the slower Druid decks. I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna give this one a 10 out of 10. This is gonna be used in pretty much in Ramp, in Jade, but not in aggro. It's not gonna be used in aggro. So we got a Priest card here. It's a 2 mana 2/2 Shadow Ascendant. The text reads, at the end of your turn, give another random friendly minion 1/1. So this can keep going on, and it does have a good snowball factor. If you draw this card on a nice curve, if you get Northshire Cleric into this, all of a sudden you got a 2/2 and a 2/4 on the board. Or if you play this and then you play like a Talon Priest on the next turn, or a Tar Creeper, it's going to be nice. But what are the odds your opponent can't deal with it? What are the odds this thing doesn't get removed? It's easily removed, and it kind of just, it's only good if you play it wall ahead. If you play it wall behind, it's not going to be that great. So you have to get the perfect curve in order to play this, and because of that, I'm not a big fan of this card. The 2 mana card for Priest is pretty nice, but I just don't think it's that great, because it's hard to keep it on the board, and if you're behind, You don't want to draw this if you're behind. So I'm going to give this card a 6. So we got a neutral card here, Skulking Geist. It's a 6 mana 4/6, and the battle cry is destroy all 1-cost spells in both hands and decks. I think this is going to be most useful if you're actually destroying one in their hand. If it's one in their deck and you're kind of just milling it, it's not going to be that useful unless it's against Jade Druid. Getting rid of their Jade idols, that's going to be super good. So if you're seeing a lot of Jade Druids, I think this is going to be teched into a lot of decks, just as if you're seeing a lot of mages, you kind of start putting Eater of Secrets. It is a little bit expensive, and I don't like the stat line, 6 mana 4/6. But I'm going to put a list of all the 1-cost spells here, excluding the quests. But it's mostly good against Jade Druid, like I said. Against Rogue, it's going to be pretty decent. You're going to get rid of like Hallucinations, Razor Petals, Journey Belows, and Cold Bloods. So it's going to be pretty decent against Rogue. But at the same time, the main issue it's going to be for the Rogue is that it's going to be hard for them to make their Arcane Giants cheap, and their questings aren't going to have, you know, easy combos. Their Edwins, you can't make them as big. But aside from that, it's not going to be that bad unless they're running Cold Bloods. But Cold Bloods aren't too big of a deal right now. So I just see this mainly being a tech card against Jade Druid. So I don't know. Like, getting rid of an evolve on against a shaman isn't too big of a deal. It will suck if they're relying on that evolve, or if that evolve was in their hand when it was destroyed. But if you're just milling it from their deck, it might as well have just been on the bottom of the deck. So I don't think this card is going to be played too much. I do see it being a tech against Jade Druid. So maybe in other control decks, you could see this being used. I'm going to give Skulking Geist a 6 out of 10. So we got a new Shaman card here, Ice Fishing. It's a 2-mana card. Draw 2 Murlocs from your deck. This card is amazing, you guys. A 2-mana draw 2 is huge. We saw Ancestral Knowledge getting some play, and that's with the huge drawback of Overload. This doesn't have the Overload, and you kind of get to choose what you're drawing because you're not going to be running as many Murlocs. And this isn't only going to be viable in a Murloc deck. You could just run a small Murloc package with 2 Hunters, 2 of the new Freeze Murlocs, and 2 Ward Leaders or something like that. It doesn't have to be a huge Murloc list in order for this to be viable. It could be used in something mid-range, or maybe even something control, you know? Like, this is like a cheap Sense Demons that Warlock used to have. It's just so much better than that. Being able to draw 2 for 2 mana is insane, and it's probably broken, you guys. It's probably broken. I definitely see this being used in almost all like mid-rangey sort of Shaman decks. They just have to incorporate that water package. They can even throw Finja in there. You know, they could go a little more Murloc-y, kind of how mid-range Paladin was for a while, running a ton of Murlocs. But I think this card is broken. I think this card is amazing. One of the best in the set yet. I'm going to give this one 10 out of 10. Next up, we got a rogue spell, Roll the Bones, 2 mana, and you draw a card, and if it has Death Rattle, you cast it again for free, I imagine. So you just keep drawing as long as you keep drawing Death Rattles. But how many Death Rattles are you really going to be running in order to make this useful? You know, Rogue doesn't run that many Death Rattles, maybe like 6, maybe 5. It's just not that great of a card. 2 mana for draw 1. Like, I'd rather use Shiv and make sure you get that 1 damage on something and you draw a card. This one, I don't know. This one's a ton of RNG here. Unless you're running more of a Death Rattle-centric sort of deck, this could be fun. I mean, if you're running pure Death Rattles, like 29 Death Rattles, you're going to draw like 10 cards every time you roll one of these until you pick up like another Roll the Bones, I guess. But that's not going to happen. I mean, that could be fun, but it's probably not going to happen. If you're running 10 Death Rattles, you're going to draw 1.5 cards on average. And if you're running only 6, it's going to be 1.2 cards on average, which is not great. You might as well run Shiv. I'm not a big fan of this one. I don't see this one getting much play. I do see it kind of being fun, just making a huge Death Rattle deck with like 20 Death Rattles. Just messing around, having some fun. But in competitive, I'm going to give this one, I'm going to give it I'm going to give it a 3. Don't like it. Don't see this one getting any play. We got a priest minion here. Acolyte of Agony is a 3-mana 3/3 with lifesteal. This one's kind of boring in my opinion. It's like a bad Earthen Ring Farseer. Little less reliable in that way. I mean, it does have the possibility of buff. You can buff it up. Priests have a lot of buff cards. You can buff it up, give it an Inner Fire. But that's going to be a lot of cards used just to get, like, if you do Divine Spirit, Inner Fire, and you throw this bad boy down, what, that's 6 mana for a 6 heal and 6 damage. Not great. Not great. Not terrible. And a lot of cards used on it, but it's I don't know. I see it being used in Arena, maybe. No, it's not that great in Arena either. Just not a big fan of this one. I do see it being used in some sort of buffing list though. Just the Inner Fire deal. Maybe it comes in a clutch little heal. Just not a big fan of this one. I don't see it getting much play. I don't think there's too much to say about it, unless I'm not thinking of something. This one's just a little boring, maybe just a filler card. I'm gonna give this one also a, I'm gonna give it a 3. We got a Shaman card here. Jakari Defender, a 3-mana 2/8 with the text Taunt Overload 3. Overload 3. The card costs 3, guys. This card is pretty awful. I think this might be one of the worst cards I've seen in the set. Honestly, this is pretty. This is sweet garbage here. The only way I'm gonna want this is if you get a sick evolve into it, a 2-mana into a gets evolved into a 3/8. That's gonna be sick. A devolve. You wouldn't complain if you got this in a devolve, but actually playing this is pretty awful. This also sort of messes with Stonehill Defender, makes it less valuable in Shaman, which might be, it might have been needed. Shaman got so much value out of Stonehill, being able to get, you know, Alakir, Wide Eyes, Earth Elemental, Hot Spring Guardian. There was a ton of good picks. So this kind of makes it a little worse picks, which is totally fine. But yeah, you don't want to play this one. This one's just to mess with Stonehill and be a little more exciting for evolves and devolves. But yeah, you don't want to play this. If you play this on 3 mana, next turn you're only gonna have 1 mana to mess around with. This is just not worth a slot in anyone's deck. This one gets a 1 out of 10, maybe a 0. No, 1 is the lowest I can go. 1 out of 10. Next up, we got a neutral card, Fallen Sun Cleric, a 2-mana 2/1 with the battle cry text, give a friendly minion 1/1. Oh my gosh, guys, we're seeing some terrible cards today. This one's not good, not good at all. It's like a bad Shattered Sun Cleric. It's just Shattered Sun Cleric is a 4/3 for 3 mana. This gets you a 3/2 for 2 mana. So it's kind of similar, but it's the 1 health is really a downside in my opinion. It's just terrible. This thing's gonna die to Maelstrom Portals. It's gonna die to Rogue Daggers. This thing is just awful. It's pretty much unplayable in my opinion. I'm gonna give this one a 1 out of 10. I don't think this is gonna see the light of day in Constructed. In Arena, I don't even know if you want this thing in Arena. This one's just, oh my god, this one's terrible, guys. 1 out of 10. 1 out of 10. We got another Death Knight. We got the Priest Death Knight reveal finally. Shadowreaper Anduin, 8 mana, a little bit expensive. It gives you the 5 armor just like all the other ones. And the battle cry text is destroy all minions with 5 or more attack. All minions, not just the opponent's minions. All minions. That means yours too. And then we got Void Form, which is what your hero power turns into, and this deals 2 damage, and then after you play a card, it refreshes it. So most people are talking about this infinite damage combo where you get Raza, 2 Radiant Elementals, and you need the Shadow Visions to remain in your deck, and then you just keep going Shadow Visions into Shadow Visions. I don't know about this OTK combo. Yeah, it can happen, but you need to draw in a very specific order. Basically, you need to get to 8 mana without drawing a Shadow Visions. And then you need to have Raza, the hero card, 2 Radiant Elementals, and both Shadow Visions still in the deck, and I just don't see it being very likely. Yeah, it can happen sometimes, but your deck can't be based around it, because if you draw a Shadow Visions, it's like, that's it. That's it. You don't win anymore. Maybe if the deck isn't based around this and it's just like an option, it can be there. It just can't be the main focus. So if your deck can win otherwise, I guess it's okay. It's okay. But you pretty much need the Shadow Vision to stay in your deck at this point. I just think this one is a little bit disappointing. It's probably my least favorite. It's still a good card. It's a good card, but it's my least favorite Death Knight, I think, so far. I'm going to give this one a 6. Sorry if you guys get mad about this one. I also don't play a lot of Priest, so maybe I'm a little bit biased. It's my least favorite class. I'm going to give this one, I'm going to give it, yeah, the 6. 6 out of 10. Yeah, I don't know, guys. I don't know. So we got a Hunter card. It's 1 mana. It's called Play Dead, and it triggers a friendly minion's death rattle. We had Feign Death already, which was an epic 2 mana card that triggered all the death rattles. This card didn't see any play, so I'm trying to figure out why Play Dead would see play. I feel like it's a little bit of a slow card. It takes a spot. If you top deck this and you're losing, it's going to be absolutely useless. If you do end up playing it on something like a high main, it could be okay. If you play it on a Rat Pack, I guess it's not awful. There's some cards where this is okay, but I still feel like it's giving up a little bit too much tempo, and the downside is a little bit too much. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of this card. I could see it maybe being used in some sort of Death Rattle deck. Maybe if we see more good Death Rattles for Hunter, this could be, it could be maybe all right. The art is very cute, though. It's cute art. We'll go ahead. I'm going to give this card a 5. I could see some people experimenting with it, but I don't think it's going to be core. I don't think it's going to be seen very often at all. So yeah, 5 out of 10 here. So next up we have a neutral card. It's called Deathspeaker. It's a 3 mana 2/4, and the text is Battlecry, give a friendly minion immune this turn. Immune is a little bit better than Divine Shield, because if anything were to happen to the board, you would be okay. So it's all right. It's a good effect, but it's a little bit slow. I think it's amazing in Arena, probably 10 out of 10 in Arena. But as far as constructed, being able to play this on tempo would be great if you have a board, but if you're behind, this is absolutely useless. 3 mana for a 2/4. Stats are okay. They're not great. It's mostly useful for trading on turn 3. If you have a decent board, let's say turn 2 you had coined out SI7 agent and they throw something down with 3 health, then turn 3 you throw out the Deathspeaker and you put a shield on your SI7, you trade it into whatever they played, and you get another clear board. So it could be decent for tempo and just continuing that tempo swing going, but I don't think this is going to see too much play, but I do think it is decent. Maybe it could fit into some sort of tempo deck. I'm just not thinking of it. But Arena, amazing, 10 out of 10 Arena. But for this, for constructed, I'm gonna give this card a 6. It's okay. It's not too impressive in my opinion. All right, guys. So I hope you enjoyed this card review. I'm sure some of you will disagree with me. Some of you will think I'm an idiot and all that stuff. But that's fine. We haven't seen the whole set, and you know, I'm biased towards certain classes, so whatever. But please like, sub, share, and I will talk to you guys in the next video. Peace!